And then you can just show a bunch of blocks that take 2 hours, a bunch of activities that take 2 hours within a power budget. And you can't go much more detailed than that. And if you can get the Russians to bless that, saying he can't blow the constraints on this. He's got the 2 hours. He's got the. They for sure guarantee they'll give me 2 hours, and no more than 100 watts. Then, or at least 100 watts. Then we would work with those constraints. I understand. But again,
I think the other thing is they didn't really want radiograms to be up there unless
it
there
was
was
even
something
in the radiogram
specifically.
Well, that's right, and that goes back to the Russian crew, because the Russian crew take those radiograms very seriously. And it's going to cause tie-ups on the comm in sorting it out if it's not being carried out for some reason. It's this terribly rigid relationship of soup to the crew that is getting in the way of this flexibility, I think.
Okay.
But on phase 1, we just have to work with it.
Well, how do you think from a phase 2 standpoint?
We need to reduce the rigidity of that relationship with soup that the crew has.
So this is something else that
Yeah,
needs to be
but it's not this is not the arena to resolve it.
Let's see, the next question is kind of handover related. 86 was one of the first flights where we had an extensive amount of science during the dock phase. A lot of the long duration science on the dock phase.
Yes.
Do you think that's feasible to keep doing that?
Just. It is. If Wendy hadn't been present, David would have had a terrible handover. Absolutely awful handover. The press, the photo stuff, the interviews, that's inevitable. You can't get rid of it. The requests will always come in from high up that you do those. So your handover times are already being eaten into. Your off-going person has to do exercise to get ready for coming home. There's no way out of that. And so rapidly you've run out of time. When you then have your oncoming long-duration crew member doing day-long experiment prep, or per timeline it might be 2 hours, but again he's doing the same old thing as he does on station. He's in the mid-deck, he's pulling out boxes he hasn't seen for a while, he's putting it all together, and he's having to be worked around by a whole crew. It's even worse on the mid-deck than on Mir. That was very time-consuming for David. He took the whole day on, it was those cells, the immune experiment. And he worked terribly hard. I didn't get a chance to talk to him at all. I think it worked, but really it would have been better if Wendy had done that. If Wendy had done that, and I had spent the time talking to Dave that day, it would have been more effective. However, while Dave was doing that, Wendy was preparing all the other experiments he was going to have to kick off after docking. And I don't know if I've talked about, what was the question anyway, because this is a good topic. Okay, let's go. This is all related to handover, and basically in handover the off-going guy has to show the oncoming people where the spaces are to put stuff, basically what the power arrangement is, and make sure that they're familiar with what they're coming into, make sure the training jives with what the situation is right now on the vehicle. And I did that with Wendy for about 2 hours. I showed her all the spaces I cleared, the lockers that were empty, where I thought the bags could be stowed that were full but weren't needed right away. And I tried to get her going. And basically what my thought process was in having, material sciencey things here and biological things here. There's that kind of, because you kind of build up a picture of what function and part of the module does for a different experiment. Meanwhile, Dave is doing his suit fit and his stuff and getting in with figuring out where he's going to sleep and where he's going to get his sleeping bag from, all these other things that take up a lot of time. And you're always, anything where you have to ask someone a question, masses of time, because you've got to find that person. That person's already doing something else. You've got to protect 2 people away from an activity. And so Dave was totally wrapped up in his handover with Anatoly, just in terms of the Soyuz, for the first day and a half. So I didn't see him either. I worked with Wendy in getting her set up. Then as Dave kind of got out from under Anatoly, I then took Dave on and started to show him about just the living arrangements and things, and how to get messages off the computer, how to find his radiograms, how to print his radiograms, how to use the ham radio. Excuse me. What things Anatoly didn't like, what things Anatoly did like. And I mean, these are serious things you've got to go through. And what you do, nuances in the way you operate systems that are going to be peculiar to crews. I saw 2 different crews, 2 different styles. And all that's going on in my handover to Dave so that he has a more comfortable, pleasant time. Meanwhile, Wendy is doing the rather more predictable but absolutely essential work of unloading the experiments that came over in the bags that need to be executed right away, setting up the cape, setting up things that the Bio 3D, making sure the cables are ready and the laptop's in position. She did all that, and it was a tremendous thing because I ended up, even in the limited time, doing the handover human factors-wise to Dave, while Wendy did all of the real technical payload handover. And she wrote down in 2 notebooks simultaneously where she'd put things, so that both Dave had the notebook and presumably the most in